The rain wasn't supposed to burn. But tonight, it did. It fell in thin silver streaks from a sky choked with orbital smog, hissing when it touched metal. Street lights flickered. Neon signs buzzed and died one by one. Sector 12 emptied fast whenever off-world ships passed overhead, and everyone knew why. When alien traffic crossed too low, strange things followed. Elias Carter pulled his hood tighter and walked faster. He'd just finished a double shift repairing cargo loaders at Dock 9. His hands still smelled like coolant and rust. All he wanted was a hot shower and 8 uninterrupted hours of sleep. Then he heard it. A sound that didn't belong in the rain. A small, fractured cry. Not human. Too soft. Too sharp at the edges. Like glass cracking underwater. Elias slowed. The cry came again, weak, desperate, and abruptly cut short. He looked toward the abandoned shuttle port across the street. The place had been shut down after the trade riots last year. No patrols. No cameras. Just collapsed containers and half-lit docking pads. "Not my problem," he muttered. The rain hissed louder. Another sound followed, a dull thud. Something had fallen. Elias exhaled sharply and crossed the street. Bad decisions, he'd learned, rarely announced themselves. They just felt inconvenient at first. He rounded a stack of rusting cargo containers and saw her. She lay half-curled in a narrow space between metal walls, barely shielded from the rain. Her skin was grey with a faint, iridescent sheen. Silver markings traced delicate patterns along her forearms, pulsing faintly like distant starlight. A child. Small, fragile, and unmistakably alien. One of her legs bent at an unnatural angle. Elias froze. Every warning he'd ever heard echoed in his head. Don't interfere. Don't get involved. Earth's neutrality was fragile, and harboring off-worlders could mean investigation, sometimes disappearance. The girl shifted slightly. A strangled cry escaped her lips. Her eyes opened. Bright violet. Clear. Not panicked. Not hostile. Just confused. She tried to push herself upright and gasped as pain shot through her body. The broken leg gave way immediately. Elias stepped forward before he realized he'd decided to. Hey, don't move," he said instinctively. She stared at him as if studying something unfamiliar. Rain beaded on her skin but didn't seem to soak into it. Her clothing caught his attention. Though torn and soaked, it wasn't ordinary fabric. The material shimmered subtly, woven with threads that reflected light like liquid metal. Not military. Not labor class. Refined. Expensive. Important. "Great," Elias muttered. "Of course you're important." He scanned the skyline. No patrol drones. No hovering enforcers. But far above, hidden beyond the clouds, something blinked briefly, an orbital light adjusting. He didn't notice. The girl attempted to speak. Only a soft rasp came out. She reached toward him. Not aggressively. Not defensively. Just reaching. As if she knew instinctively that if he walked away, she wouldn't survive the night. Elias swore under his breath. "This is how people end up in documentaries," he said quietly. He removed his jacket and carefully wrapped it around her shoulders. She was shockingly light when he slid one arm beneath her back and the other under her uninjured leg. The moment he lifted her, her hand shot up and grabbed his collar. Tight. Not in fear. In need. Her grip was stronger than it should have been for someone so small. "It's fine," he said softly. I've got you. For a brief second, the violet glow in her eyes dimmed slightly. Trust. He stepped out from between the containers and into the burning rain. Each drop hissed against his jacket. The city remained eerily silent, unaware of the fragile shift taking place beneath its flickering lights. Elias didn't see the orbital surveillance grid recalibrating. He didn't see the black Imperial transport ships entering the outer atmosphere on silent thrusters. He didn't know that somewhere far beyond Earth's sky, alarms were echoing through a throne chamber carved from living crystal. All he knew was that a broken child was trembling in his arms, and she was holding on like he was the only solid thing left in her universe. He carried her home, not knowing the girl he had just rescued was the sole surviving heir to a galactic empire. Elias didn't own much. A narrow bed, a fold-out couch, a cracked kitchen counter patched with polymer sealant, a tool bench near the window. That was his entire world. And now an alien child lay unconscious on his couch. He locked the door, drew the blinds, and carefully set her down. Up close, the damage looked worse. Her leg wasn't just fractured, it was crushed near the joint. There were dark bruises forming beneath her silver-lined skin, spreading slowly like ink in water. He ran a hand through his hair. No alien medkit. No translator device. No idea what your species metabolizes. He exhaled. All right. We improvise. He sterilized tools the way he would for delicate circuitry. Boiled water. Clean cloth. Polymer strips for splinting. He worked slowly, carefully aligning bone by touch and observation. The moment he adjusted the leg, her eyes snapped open. She didn't scream, didn't thrash. She simply stared at him, jaw clenched, breath sharp. "You're going to hate me for about 10 seconds," Elias warned. He reset the bone. Her hand shot out again, gripping his forearm this time. The strength in her fingers shocked him. Then it passed. She didn't lose consciousness, didn't cry, just kept watching him, studying, memorizing. Hours passed. He secured the splint, wrapped compression layers, and sat back. Best I can do without an alien hospital. Silence hung in the small apartment. Then, "You are not afraid." Her voice was soft, controlled, formal in tone despite her size. Elias blinked. "You speak standard?" "I speak many dialects," she replied calmly. He leaned back against the wall. "That's convenient." She shifted slightly, testing the splint, and winced. "Why assist me?" she asked. Elias frowned. "Because you were bleeding in the rain." "That is not logical." He shrugged. "Yeah, humans don't run purely on logic." She considered that carefully, as if cataloguing a new scientific discovery. "You risk investigation, penalty, detainment." "Probably," he admitted. "Then why?" He met her gaze evenly. "Because you were alone." Something in her expression changed at that. Not weakness, not gratitude, recognition, as if she had expected a different answer, and found something rarer instead. Before he could ask anything more, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then stabilized. Elias frowned and stood, walking to the window. He peeled the blind up slightly. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then he noticed the sky. It was too still. No commercial traffic. No blinking trade routes. Just darkness. And faint, distant shapes. Large ones. hovering beyond the cloud layer. Ships. Not civilian. Their hulls reflected no light. Military. His stomach tightened. "Do you expect visitors?" he asked quietly. The girl sat up straighter despite her injury. Her eyes shifted, not toward him, but upward, as if sensing something beyond walls and atmosphere. "Yes," she answered. The word was calm. Certain. Not fearful. Elias let the blind fall shut. "Friends." She paused. "No." As if summoned by her response. A low vibration rippled through the building. Not explosive. Not destructive. Just powerful. Like gravity briefly tightening its grip on the city. Elias stepped back from the window. "What did you get me into?" She looked at him carefully. Transport was attacked in orbit. Trajectory altered. I was ejected before hull breach. Ejected? Elias stared. You fell from space? Encased in emergency descent capsule, she clarified. That's slightly better. A distant sonic boom echoed across the skyline. Engines. Controlled descent. Multiple signatures. Elias's pulse quickened. "Okay," he muttered. "This is bad." She studied his reaction. "You may release me," she said. "Imperial retrieval units will compensate you." He gave a dry laugh. "Compensate me? I don't want compensation. You assisted an asset of significance." He crossed his arms. "You're not an asset." Silence. The air seemed to thicken between them. Her violet eyes dimmed slightly. "You do not know what I am. You're a kid with a broken leg." The building vibrated again. Closer this time. She held his gaze. "You will soon understand." Outside, the first black armored shuttle descended between skyscrapers, silent as a falling shadow. Across the city, communication grids flickered as unknown frequencies overrode them, and high above Earth's atmosphere, an Imperial War Council transmitted a single directive. "The heir lives. Secure her. At any cost." Inside a one-room apartment in Sector 12, Elias Carter stood between a galactic empire and the only survivor of its throne. He still didn't know her name. The knock wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. 3 precise strikes against the metal door. Measured. Controlled. Certain. Elias felt it in his chest more than he heard it. The building had gone silent. No traffic hum. No distant sirens. Even the ever-present city wind seemed to have stopped. The girl on the couch lifted her chin slightly. "They are here." Elias swallowed. "You sound very sure. I can feel the command frequency." Another knock. This time the hallway lights flickered in response. Elias moved toward the door slowly, every instinct telling him this was the moment sensible people regretted their life choices. He turned halfway back toward her. "Anything I should know before I open that?" "Yes." She held his gaze calmly. "They will kneel." He blinked. "That's specific." The third knock came. Elias opened the door. The hallway was no longer empty. 4 towering figures stood in formation outside his apartment. Their armor was matte black with subtle silver lines tracing across the plating like circuitry. Their helmets concealed their faces entirely, visors dark and unreadable. Each stood over 7 feet tall. Each radiated authority like gravity. The air around them hummed faintly. The lead figure stepped forward half a pace. "Human," a voice resonated from within the helmet. Deep, layered, modulated. You are harboring a classified Imperial entity. Elias leaned casually against the doorframe, though his pulse hammered in his ears. That's so. You will step aside. Not a request. Elias didn't move. You're a long way from home, he replied. Behind him, he heard the soft shift of fabric as the girl rose carefully to her feet. Even injured, she stood straight. The guards saw her, and everything changed. All four figures dropped to one knee instantly. Perfect synchronization. Armor plates struck the hallway floor with a deep metallic echo. Helmets lowered. The building lights dimmed further, as if even the electrical grid recognized hierarchy. Elias stared. You weren't kidding. The lead guard's voice shifted, no longer commanding. Reverent. Your Highness. The throne world registered your life signal termination. We prepared succession containment. The girl stepped forward until she stood just behind Elias. I did not terminate, she said evenly. Transport was sabotaged. The hallway temperature seemed to drop. The guards remained kneeling. Perpetrators? The lead asked. Unknown. Investigation will follow. Elias turned slowly toward her. Highness. She didn't look at him. My name is Lyra Valenthis. The name carried weight. It felt ancient, layered, important. First daughter of the celestial dominion. Sole living heir. Elias exhaled. Your royalty. I am the Empire's continuity. That explained the fabric. The markings. The way the soldiers knelt without hesitation. The lead guard spoke again. The Council demands immediate extraction. Imperial fleets hold orbital position. Orbital position. Elias felt that phrase sink into his spine. You brought a fleet, he muttered. For the heir, the guard replied calmly. Lyra's violet eyes flicked toward Elias for the first time since the door opened. He saw something different there now. Not just composure. Power. Authority that wasn't learned. It was embedded. You are under my protection, she said clearly. The guards did not react, but something subtle shifted. The lead guard hesitated. Your Highness. He is human. Yes. He interfered in sovereign retrieval protocol. Yes. A pause. Then protocol dictates. Lyra raised her hand slightly. The silver markings along her forearm flared faintly. The hallway lights dimmed further. The guard stopped speaking immediately. Protocol had just been overridden. I was alone, Lyra said softly, but the words carried through the corridor like a decree. In pain. Abandoned in hostile territory. She turned her head slightly toward Elias. He carried me. Silence. Even the armored soldiers seemed to absorb that. Elias shifted uncomfortably. I just fixed her leg. Lyra looked at him directly now. You preserved imperial succession. That hit harder than he expected. The lead guard bowed his helmet lower. Your will supersedes protocol. Good, Lyra replied. She stepped forward carefully despite her injury, stopping beside Elias rather than in front of him. A deliberate choice. The guard continued. Extraction shuttle is secured below. The Council convenes emergency ascension proceedings. Lyra's expression remained unreadable. And Earth? She asked. Contained, the guard replied. Elias stiffened. Contained. Communication disruption is temporary. No civilian harm. Lyra considered that, then nodded once. Prepare departure. The guards rose in unison. As they stood, Elias felt the scale of it. An empire had bent its orbit for this child. No, not a child. An empress waiting. Lyra turned to him quietly. "You now understand." He stared at the armored soldiers filling his hallway, the fleet above his planet, the way reality seemed to adjust around her presence. "Yeah," he said slowly, "I think I do." Outside, another shuttle engine roared to life. Across Earth's night sky, dark Imperial warships repositioned. The heir had been found, and she had chosen a human to stand beside her. The shuttle waiting below Elias's apartment did not look built for atmosphere. It looked built for war. Matte black hull. No insignia visible, yet power radiated from it like a restrained storm. Its landing struts crushed part of the abandoned street beneath their weight. A faint distortion shimmered around it, bending the rain away before it could touch the surface. Imperial guards formed a perimeter the moment Elias and Lyra stepped outside. The entire block had been cleared. Silently, efficiently. No sirens, no explosions, just absence. Elias glanced up at the skyline. Far above, through a break in the clouds, he could see faint geometric shadows. Warships. Plural. "You really travel light," he muttered. Lyra ignored the comment. Her posture had shifted since the door opened. The injured girl he carried through burning rain was still there, but layered beneath something older, heavier, purposeful. The lead guard stepped forward. "Your Highness, the Council has initiated pre-ascension mandate. Your immediate return is required." Lyra nodded once. "And this human?" The guard hesitated. Even that slight delay felt dangerous. "He will be compensated and memory cleared as necessary." Elias blinked. Memory cleared. Lyra's violet eyes darkened. No. The word was soft, but it bent the air. The guards stiffened instantly. The lead guard inclined his helmet. "Your Highness, integration of a pre-FTL species into imperial succession proceedings violates 14 accords." "I am aware." "Human proximity to the throne world introduces political instability." Lyra turned fully toward the guard. The silver markings along her arms ignited faintly beneath her skin, pulsing in slow rhythmic waves. "I was nearly assassinated," she said calmly. "My transport sabotaged. My escort annihilated." Silence. Her voice did not rise. It didn't need to. This human preserved imperial continuity. She took one step closer to Elias, not behind him, beside him. Another deliberate choice. He will not be altered. He will not be erased. The guard lowered his head slightly. "The Council will resist." Lyra's expression hardened. "The Council may attempt." The rain around them seemed to stop midair for half a second. Elias felt the subtle distortion in gravity again, the same presence he'd sensed in the hallway. Not technology. Something biological. Encoded authority. The lead guard spoke carefully now. "Your Highness, by tradition, the heir returns alone, uninfluenced." Lyra finally looked at Elias. There was something quieter in her gaze now. Not command. Not calculation. Memory. "You carried me," she said softly. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah." Still not sure how that became a diplomatic crisis. She almost smiled. "It was not strength that saved me." He frowned slightly. "It was choice." She turned back to the guard. "I will not ascend in isolation." The guard's helmet tilted. Clarify. Lyra's next words altered the trajectory of two civilizations. He comes with me. The perimeter shifted subtly. Imperial soldiers did not move, but the tension tightened like drawn wire. The lead guard spoke carefully. Your Highness, human integration into the Imperial court is forbidden. I am the court, Lyra replied. Silence. The engine hum of the shuttle deepened. High above, one of the warships shifted orbit slightly, as if reacting to the decision. Elias looked between them. Hold on. I don't remember agreeing to interstellar politics. Lyra turned to him. You are free to refuse. He stared at the shuttle. The warships. The soldiers who could erase him without effort. Then at her. The girl who had grabbed his collar in the rain like he was the only stable thing in her collapsing world. Memory wipes still on the table if I say no? He asked dryly. Yes. And if I say yes? She held his gaze steadily. You stand beside an empire during its most unstable moment. He let out a slow breath. Yeah, that tracks. The lead guard interjected carefully. Human participation will provoke factions within the council. Lyra's voice lowered slightly. Let them be provoked. The statement wasn't reckless. It was calculated. Power stabilizing. Authority claiming itself. Elias studied her for another second. Statistically probable I die horribly, right? Statistically, she confirmed. He sighed. All right. The guards shifted slightly in surprise. He extended his hand toward her. Guess I'm coming with you. Lyra looked at his hand briefly, then took it. The moment their hands connected, the silver markings along her arms flared brighter than before. High above Earth, 3 Imperial warships adjusted formation. A signal transmitted across fleets. Status update. The heir has chosen. The shuttle ramp lowered fully. The guards stepped aside. Earth had just become entangled in Imperial succession, and most of the planet still thought the rain was the strangest part of the night. The throne world did not orbit a sun. It orbited a fracture in space, a controlled singularity, ancient, contained, and weaponized into a power source that illuminated an entire civilization. From orbit, the capital looked like a crown of silver continents suspended around a glowing abyss. Elias stood inside a transport corridor made of living crystal and tried very hard not to look impressed. It didn't work. Below the transparent flooring, fleets moved in silent precision. Warships larger than cities shifted formation like disciplined predators. Energy lines pulsed between spires that pierced the upper atmosphere. This is excessive, he muttered. It is tradition, Lyra replied calmly. She walked without assistance now. The splint he had improvised had been replaced by seamless regenerative latticework, barely visible beneath her skin. But she had not removed it entirely. A reminder. The corridor doors opened. The throne chamber was not built for comfort. It was built for perspective. Tier upon tier of elevated platforms surrounded a vast circular floor. At the far end rose the throne, an intricate structure of metallic branches and suspended light, connected to conduits that pulsed with the same glow as the singularity outside. Council members lined the chamber, tall, armored in ceremonial plating, eyes glowing in varying shades of controlled energy. When Lyra entered, every gaze locked onto her, then shifted to Elias. The murmur that followed wasn't loud, but it was sharp. The High Chancellor stepped forward from the inner circle. Lyra Valenthis, the Chancellor said, voice resonating through the chamber. You return alive. I do. You return, accompanied. The word carried disapproval like a blade hidden in silk. Lyra did not look back at Elias. He carried me when your fleets could not. A ripple moved through the chamber. The Chancellor's gaze fixed on Elias. You are aware, human, that you stand within the core of a civilization that has erased stars? Elias crossed his arms casually. I fixed her leg. A few council members shifted uncomfortably. The Chancellor's tone sharpened. You interfered in sovereign affairs. Lyra's voice cut through before Elias could respond. He preserved sovereign continuity. Silence. The silver markings along her arms flared faintly. The chamber lighting dimmed in response. The Chancellor inclined his head slightly. Pre-ascension mandate requires isolation, emotional detachment, strategic recalibration. Lyra stepped forward alone now, walking toward the throne. Isolation nearly killed me. That stopped the murmuring entirely. She turned slowly, addressing the entire chamber. My transport was sabotaged. My escort annihilated. The succession fractured. Her voice did not rise. It deepened. While you calculated political stability, I lay broken in the rain of a primitive world. Several council members lowered their gazes. This human, she continued, acted without incentive, without leverage, without fear. Her eyes shifted briefly toward Elias. He did not assist an heir. He assisted a child. The words landed heavier than any weapon. The Chancellor's energy field flickered. Sentiment weakens empires. Lyra ascended the steps toward the throne. Fear weakens them faster. She turned and faced the chamber from the highest platform. An empire sustained only by dominance fractures from within. An empire that understands choice, endures. The throne activated. Light surged upward through its branches, cascading around her form. The markings across her skin ignited fully now, brilliant silver threads forming a lattice of living authority. I ascend, she declared. The singularity outside pulsed in resonance. Every council member dropped to one knee. The chamber vibrated, not violently, but decisively. Systems recalibrated. Control shifted. Lyra Valenthis became Empress. Elias stood alone at the base of the platform, unarmed, human, visible. The High Chancellor rose slowly. Empress. The title carried reluctant acceptance. Your first decree? Lyra's gaze swept the chamber, then settled on Elias. Humanity will be recognized as sovereign allies of the celestial dominion. Shock rippled openly now. The Chancellor stiffened. Alliance with a pre-FTL civilization destabilizes. Stability, Lyra interrupted calmly, is not achieved by erasing variables. It is achieved by understanding them. She descended the steps, stopping in front of Elias. I will not rule through isolation. The chamber watched in silence as she extended her hand to him, not as heir, as Empress. You stood beside me when I had no throne. He looked at her hand, then at the singularity blazing beyond the chamber walls. You're really doing this? Yes. He took her hand. The chamber lighting brightened. Across the empire, a transmission spread through military, civilian, and political channels alike. By decree of the Empress, humanity is recognized, not conquered, not contained, recognized. Later, standing on a balcony overlooking fleets that could end civilizations, Elias exhaled slowly. You know, he said, this all started because you fell out of the sky. Lyra stood beside him. It began because you chose. Below them, an empire adjusted its course, not because it feared humanity, but because one human lifted its future when it was broken, and the Empress never forgot the rain.